Right, yeah, well, welcome back to the Iron Horse channel, demonstrating the flat earth model and showing just how difficult everything is. Nothing is simple when it comes to perspective and observations of the sun. Now, what I've done here is shown a brief, I've gotten rid of the fish, gone back, that's 25-mile helium balloon, maximum height, 60 to 70 miles high to the firmament, superfluid layer of helium, firmament B across there, about 12 to 14 miles high. So these people are, of course, 3 times the size of Mount Everest, almost. If we're going to do anything to scale, it's virtually impossible. So the next thing I want people to bear in mind is that the atmosphere, obviously it's fluorescing blue when the sun is out. That's because the sun stimulates the noble gases. I'll try and re-upload a video about that as well shortly. The noble gases fluoresce, just like the gases in a fluorescent light bulb. In fact, the fluorescent light bulb I've used in here are specifically kept from when I had the aquarium business because it creates the blue light. That's called a 50-50 blue light spectrum, which creates the most natural, closest to sunlight sort of thing because it glows blue. So it stimulates the noble gases, which have your argon, krypton, xenon, neon. There's another one as well. And you've also got nitrogen and oxygen and water molecules are all part of our atmosphere. So when they're stimulated, just like the gases inside of a fluorescent light bulb, they all glow. And as you might know, when you touch a bulb itself after it's been on for a while, it gets hot. The sun itself is not hot. No heat comes directly from the sun. The heat is a byproduct of the light. So the light reaching the surface, that's where it's reflecting the most off all the different objects, all the water and all the rest of it. That is where most of the heat is actually generated. It feels like it comes directly from the sun because the sun is the light source. And so the more intense the sun is and the more you're out in the sunlight, the hotter it is. Step into the shade though of just a tree and all of a sudden that thing 93 million miles away is now 10 degrees cooler. That obviously it's not the sunlight that is the hot part of it. It's the byproduct of the light reflecting off of things, creating the heat. And so the most direct line of sight of any light is what creates the seasons. So as the sun gets lower towards the firmament, it creates more direct light further and further outwards. It creates the outer hemisphere summer. And as it gets higher and higher, the most direct light comes straight through into the northern side, the Tropic of Cancer, and that's their summertime. The indirect light coming from the north is our winter. Indirect light from their south is their winter. So that's the seasons easily explained on the flat earth if you understand some of the basics of the nature of light and heat. Now the next thing I didn't demonstrate is this 12 to 14 mile high here. That also creates another sun to each viewer because it's a filter. You can't really see through lots and lots and lots of light and atmosphere. It's like why high altitude balloon footage looking back down, the earth looks fuzzy, cloudy and blue sort of thing. But you can't really clearly make out the continents at all, which is how we know they faked a lot of those outer space images of the globe. It's all been faked. So we're actually seeing the sun 12 to 14 miles away, really, through a filter. If you're holding a welder's filter right in front of your eyes, it makes an even tinier dot because you filtered nearly all the light out. So it's apparition of light. So you are seeing another apparition, and that's the bright disk of the sun that we all see and think of as the sun. When you go in high altitude balloon footage up to 128,000 feet, which is not quite 25 miles, the sun looks like a big starburst of things. And of course, people are just going to call that camera glare and all that because it's so cold up there too. You're going to get the frost on your lens. There's all sorts of excuses to try and describe things without seriously thinking of it. That is just the nature of light because it's no longer been filtered through the atmosphere. So it creates the glare, the so-called crown of thorns that the Son of God is surrounded by. Nearly 5 minutes already. Wow. So technically, when you're triangulating the sun 500 miles away, you're not even seeing it that close. You're seeing it even further apart. And of course, once you add scale in, when you're looking at the sun, it's also because it's rotating around. Sorry, because it's also rotating around the equator every day, it's still going to be in another slightly different position to every viewer because of the distance, which is why the angle of the shadow in each place will be slightly different, which is how if you use Eratosthenes' experiment, how he was meant to be in about 500 miles away, 800 stadia, away from Alexandria to Syene, where it was known that in Syene, no shadow cast down a well on that day, and he got a 7.2 or 7.8 degree shadow in Alexandria at what was considered the same time. Now, bear in mind, this is in a time when time was measured by the shadows of sticks. So it's very hard to do that experiment at that time. Time is a tricky thing as well. But if you then back engineer that and consider it's at the same time, that creates the sun to be measurably on that particular day 3,890 miles high, which is why some people, a lot of flat earthers, say that is the height of the sun. But that's the height of the source of the sun, massive, massive height up above. But the view of the sun, it doesn't even turn to visible light till passing through the firmament. But then it's filtered again. There's nothing through there. That's all the blackness of space. That's blackness of space as well. And then you've got the atmosphere, which of course anytime the sun is visible, it's fluorescing. Even after twilight, after the sun is even set, to your point of view, it's still fluorescing with the neons, twilight colours. So you still can't quite see the atmosphere till a good half an hour or more after, when the first bright stars start to appear. So I need to catch my breath. Right, yeah. So if we then assume there's only a 7.8 degree difference between this shadow and one directly downwards to this guy over here, you're not just triangulating a trapezoid, you're actually triangulating a near perfect rectangle of only 7.8 degree lean in one spot, which is next to nothing. If you drew a rectangle just slightly off by 7.8 degrees, most people to the naked eye on a really large rectangle, if a football field had one try line 7.8 degrees off, you would hardly notice it. It would be very difficult to see, especially over a 500-mile football field. You're triangulating a rectangle. That's not a triangle. And so they're using triangulation to measure two completely different points. And if they obviously extend the line out from those, that's what's going to create the appearance of mathematically measuring 93 million miles. Nothing could be more wrong, when in fact his sun is technically only 12 to 14 miles high. And of course, when it gets further distant, it appears lower and lower by degrees to the horizon, which creates the illusion of setting. And because the ground beneath always ramps up to eye level, obscurity point, the steeper the higher the parallel line, the steeper it appears. So it appears as though the sun is going down once it gets so far enough away, creates the illusion of setting. So it would fool people that didn't know any better that the Earth could be a globe or a spherical sort of thing, even though the horizon's always dead straight, no matter how high you go or how far you look. Mate. So I just think I'll finish that off then with the reason why the sun doesn't appear to get any smaller, because technically it's still thousands and thousands of miles away, but your local horizon is only 3 or 4 miles. It's nothing. On the grand scheme of things, it's not even a pixel. You made a room-sized map and you put a layer of contact sheet on it, that would be the equivalent of the height of the firmament. One little pixel of that, get a pen and poke a dot in it, that would be bigger than your entire field of view where you see the sun rise to set from the morning to night. So you're not going to notice any angular size of something already so sufficiently far away.